Mannayam Shri Guru Shiyatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashakam Vitam Sya Om Ajnana Timarandasya Gyanajana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindabhidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavad Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divyat Tanum Suchanda Baranam Balarka Chelan Shitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shivaram Mandeka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shridaram Vanshakopatarubyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Madhya-lila, chapter 5, the activities of Sakshi-gopal. Verse 1. Padvyam shalanya pratima swarupo brahmanya devo shataha gamyam desham yayo vipra krited bhuteham tam sakshi gopalam aham natosmi. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmanya Deva, who appeared as Sakshi-gopal to benefit a Brahmin. Walking on his own legs, he traveled for 100 days through the country. Thus his activities are wonderful. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Sri Advaita Prabhu. And all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chalite Chalite Aila Yajapura Gram Varahata Kurdeki Korila Pranam. Walking and walking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his party finally arrived at Yajapura on the river Vaitarani. There he saw the temple of Varahadev and offered his obeisances unto him. Nitya Gita Koila Preme Bahuta Staban Yagyapure Seiratri Korila Japan. In the temple of Varahadev, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in chanting and dancing and offered prayers. He passed that night in the temple. Katake aila saki gopala dekite gopala sondarya deke hoila nandite. Afterwards, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the town of Cuttak to see the temple of Sakshi-gopal, of witness Gopal. When he saw the deity of Gopal, he was very much pleased by his beauty. Prema beshe nitya gita koila katakan avishta haya koila gopalastavan. While there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in chanting and dancing for some time. Being overwhelmed, he offered many prayers to Gopal. Seiratri-tahan rahib bhaktagana sange gopalera purvakata shune bahurange. That night, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in the temple of Gopal, and along with all the devotees, he heard the narration of Sakshi-gopal, or witness Gopal, with great pleasure. Nityananda Gosai Chabe Tirtha Brahmila Sakshi-gopala Dekibare Katak Aila. Previously, when Nityananda Prabhu had toured all over India, To see different places of pilgrimage, he also had come to see Sakshi-gopal at Cuttak. Sakshi-gopal era kata shune lokamuke, se kata kohen Prabhu shune mahasuke. At that time, Nityananda Prabhu had heard the story of Sakshi-gopal from the townspeople. He now recited this again, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the narration with great pleasure. Purve Vidyanagare duita Brahman, tirta koribare duke korilagaman. Formerly at Vidyanagar in South India, there were two Brahmins who made a long tour to see different places of pilgrimage. Gaya Varanasi Prayag Sakala Korea Mathurate Ailaduhe Ananditahaya. First of all, they visited Gaya, then Kashi, then Prayag. Finally, with great pleasure, they came to Mathura. Banajatrai Banadeki Deki Govardhan Dwarashabana Deki Seshe Gela Brindavan. After reaching Mathura, they started visiting the different forests of Vrindavan and came to Govardhan Hill. They visited all 12 forest vanas and at last came to the town of Vrindavan. The 5 forests situated on the eastern side of the river Jamuna are Bhadra, Bilva, Loha, Bandir, and Mahaban. The 7 forests situated on the western side of the Jamuna are Madhu, Tala, Kumuda, Bahula, Gamya, Kadira, and Vrindavan. After visiting all these forests, these pilgrimages went to a place known as Panchakroshi Vrindavan. Out of the 12 forests, the Vrindavan forest extends from the town of Vrindavan up to Nandagram and Varshana, a distance of 32 miles within which the Panchakroshi Vrindavan town is situated. Vrindavane Govindastane Mahadevaloy Se Mandire Gopalera Mahasevahoy. In the village of Panchakroshi Vrindavan, at the site where the Govinda temple is now situated, there was a great temple where gorgeous worship of Gopal was performed. Keshitirtha Kaliya Rida Dike Koilasnan Sri Gopala Dekitahan Korila Vishram. After taking baths at different bathing places along the river Jamuna, such as Keshi Ghat and Kaliya Ghat, the pilgrims visited the temple of Gopal. Afterwards, they took rest in that temple. Gopala Sundarya Duhara Mana Nilahari Sukapaya Rahitahan Dina Duichari. The beauty of the Gopal temple stole away their minds, and feeling great happiness, they remained there for 2 to 4 days. Dui Vipra Madhye Eg Vipra Brida Prai Aravipra Juvatara Korana Sahai. One of the 2 Brahmins was an old man, and the other was young. The young man was assisting the old one. Chotra Vipra Kores Sada Tahara Sevan Tahara Sevaya Vipra Tushta Hoilaman. Indeed, the young Brahmin always rendered service to the older one, and the old man, being very satisfied with his service, was pleased with him. Vipra Boli Tumi Mora Bahu Seva Koila Sahai Haya More Tirta Koraila. The older man told the younger, "You have rendered various types of service to me. You have assisted me in traveling to all these places of pilgrimage. Putreo Pitara Aiche Nakore Seban Tomara Prasadayami Na Pailama Shram." Even my own son does not render such service. By your mercy, I did not become fatigued while on this tour. Krita Nata Hoy Tomai Nakoile Saman Ateva Tomai Ami Diva Kanyadan. If I did not show you any respect, I would be ungrateful. Therefore, I promise to give you my daughter in charity. So I promise to give you, the old man is saying, I promise to give you my daughter in marriage. And then, Chota Vipra Kohe Shuna Vipra Mahashai Asambhava Kahakene Jai Nahi Hoy. The younger Brahmin replied, my dear sir, please hear me. You are saying something very unusual. Such a thing never happens. Maha Kulina Tumi Vidya Dhanadi Prabhin Amiya Kulina Ara Dana Vidyahin. You are from a most family. You are from a most aristocratic family, well educated and very rich. I am not at all aristocratic, and I am without a decent education and have no wealth. Kanyadan Patrami na hoi tomar Krishna prite kore tomar Seva Vyabahar. Sir, I am not a suitable bridegroom for your daughter. I render service to you only for the satisfaction of Krishna. Brahmana Sevaya Krishnera Priti Borahoy Tahara Santoshe Bhakti Sampad Badai. Lord Krishna is very much pleased by service rendered to Brahmins, and when the Lord is pleased, the opulence of one's devotional service increases. So the younger Brahmin is only interested in devotional service. He's not interested in any kind of worldly or mundane opulence. He's not trying to gain anything through his service. He's just doing this as a service to the Lord and as a service to the older Brahmin. Boravipra kohe tumi nakora samshai tomake kanya diva ame korela nisjoy. The older Brahmin replied, my dear boy, do not doubt me. I will give you my daughter in charity. I have already decided this. I've already decided that I will give you my daughter as your wife. Chota Vipra Boli Tomar Striputrasab Bahugyati Goshti Tomar Bahuta Bandava. The younger Brahmin said, you have a wife and sons. You have a wife and sons, and you have a large circle of relatives and friends. So this is not so unusual, especially formerly, that people participated in arranged marriages between families, and thus a girl was given to a boy in charity, you can say, or as a part of an arranged marriage, and then the wife would go to live in the family of the family of the groom. Tasabar samati bina nahi kanyadan rukmira pita bishmak tahate praman. Without the consent of all your friends and relatives, it is not possible to give me your daughter in charity. Just consider the story of Queen Rukmini and her father Bhishmaka. Bhishmakarat icha Krishne kanya saparite putrera virode kanya narila arpite. King Bhishmaka wanted to give his daughter Rukmini in charity to Krishna, but Rukmi, his eldest son, objected. Therefore, he could not carry out his decision. Boravipra, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bandhunam ichatam datum Krishnaya bhaginam nripa tata nivarya Krishna dvid rukmi chaidyam amanyata. King Bhishmaka of Vidarbha wanted to give Lord Krishna's daughter, Rukmini, but Rukmi, the eldest of his 5 sons, objected. Therefore, Bhishmaka withdrew his decision and decided to offer Rukmini to the king of Chedi, Shishupal, who was a cousin of Krishna's. However, Rukmini conceived of a trick. She sent a letter to Krishna asking him to kidnap her. Thus, in order to please Rukmini, who was his great devotee. Krishna kidnapped her. There ensued a great fight between Krishna and the opposing party, headed by Rukmini's brother, Rukmi. Rukmi was defeated because of his harsh words against Krishna, was about to be killed, but he was saved at the request of Rukmini. However, Krishna shaved off all of Rukmini's However, Krishna shaved off all of Rukmi's hair with his sword. Sri Balaram did not like this, and so, to please Rukmini, Balaram rebuked Krishna. So, the verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita is, King Bhishmaka wanted to give his daughter Rukmini in charity to Krishna, but Rukmi, his eldest son, objected. Therefore, he could not carry out his decision. So the younger Brahmin is telling this, mentioning this, that even in the Krishna-lila, the family of Rukmini objected, that is, Rukmini's elder brother, Rukmi, strongly objected, even that the king, Bhishmaka, would give Rukmini to Krishna as his wife. The king wanted this, obviously, and Rukmini wanted this, but the family of Rukmini, that is Rukmi, Rukmini's elder brother, he objected and tried to arrange a marriage with Shishupal. So the younger Brahmin is citing this to say that there will be great obstacles, that you, the elder Brahmin, give me your daughter as promised in this marriage, because your family is aristocratic and mine is very poor, and they're all going to object. Bora vipra kohe kanya mora nijadan dite nishedi be konjan. The elderly Brahmin said, my daughter is my own property. If I choose to give my property to someone, who has the power to stop me? Tomake kanya diva sabake kore niraskar samshayana kora tumi koraha swikar. My dear boy, I will give my daughter to you in charity, and I will neglect the position of all others. Don't doubt me in this regard. Just accept my proposal. Chota vipra kohe jari kanya dite mohan gopalera age kaha e satya vachan. The younger Brahmin replied, if you have decided to give your young daughter to me, then say so before the Gopal deity. Gopalera age vipra kohite lagila tumi jana nidya kanya ihare amidila. Coming before Gopal, the elderly Brahmin said, my dear Lord, please witness that I have given my daughter to this boy. Chota vipra bole takur tumi morasaki tomasaki bolaimu jari anyata deki. Then the younger Brahmin addressed the deity, saying, my dear Lord, you are my witness. I shall call for you to testify if it is necessary later on. Eta boli dui jane chalila deshere guru budye chota vipra bahu seva kore. After these talks, the two Brahmins started for home. As usual, the younger Brahmin accompanied the elder Brahmin as if the elder Brahmin was a guru, spiritual master, and rendered him service in various ways. Deshe anshi dui jane gela nijagare kata dine boravipra chandita antare. After returning to Vidyanagar, each Brahmin went to his respective home. After some time, the elderly Brahmin became very anxious. Tirte vipre bhakya dilun kemate satya hoy Sri putra gyati bandhu janibe nischoy. He began to think, I have given my word to a Brahmin in a holy place, and what I promised will certainly come to pass. I must now disclose this to my wife, sons, other relatives, and friends. Ek din nijalok ekatra korila tasabar age sab britanta kohila. Thus one day the elderly Brahmin called for a meeting of all his relatives and friends, and before them all he narrated what had taken place in front of Gopal. Shuni sab goshti tara kore hahakar aiche bat muke tumi na ani bear. When those who belonged to the family circle heard the narration of the old Brahmin, they made exclamations, showing their disappointment. They all requested that he not make such a proposal again. Hahakar means, oh, how this is so sad, so pitiful. They express disappointment. Niche kanya dile kula jaibe ganash shuniya sakala lok koribe upahas. They unanimously agreed, if you offer your daughter to a degraded family, to a poor family, your aristocracy will be lost. When people hear this, they will make jokes and laugh at you. Viprabole tirta bhakya kemone korian jahauk sehauk ami dibakanyadan. The elderly Brahmin said, how can I undo the promise I made in a holy place while on pilgrimage? Whatever may happen, I must give him my daughter in charity. Gyati lo kohe mora tomake chariba striputra kohe visha kaya moriba. The relatives unanimously said, if you give your daughter to that boy, we shall give up all connection with you. Indeed, his wife and sons declared, if such a thing happens, we shall take poison and die. Viprabole saki bolaya koribe kanyai jiti kanya labe mora byarta dharma hoy. The elderly Brahmin said, if I do not give my daughter to the young Brahmin, he will call Sri Gopalji as a witness. Thus he will take my daughter by force. And in that case, my religious principles will become meaningless. Putra bole pratima saki seho duradeshe ke tomara saki dibe chinda kore kishe. His sons replied, the deity may be a witness, but he is in a distant country, is in a distant place. How can he come to bear witness against you? Why are you so anxious over this? Nahi kohe na kahiya e mitya bachan, sabe kohibe mora kichu nahi ka smaran. You do not have to flatly deny that you spoke such a thing. There is no need to make a false statement. Simply say that you do not remember what you said. Tumi jabe koha ami kichwina jani tabe ami nyaya kori brahmanera jini. If you simply say, I do not remember, I shall take care of the rest. By argument, I shall defeat the young Brahmin. I remember one time with Srila Govinda Maharaj, there was some problem with the local government, and they wanted to create some problem for the month. So Govinda Maharaj told Srila Guru Maharaj, well, when they come, you can say this. And Govinda Maharaj said, no, I cannot say that, because I cannot say something that is untruthful. I cannot tell a lie. So then Govinda Maharaj said, okay, you are saying you cannot speak that way to the persons from the government, but can you tell them about this matter you speak with Govinda Maharaj? And Guru Maharaj said, yes, I can say that. Then Govinda Maharaj could handle everything. But Guru Maharaj said, I cannot say a lie to the people from the government, and it was about something important. So Govinda Maharaj just tell them, can you just tell them to speak with me? And Guru Maharaj said, yes, I can do that. And it was that way it was handled. Tumi jadi kaha ame kichui najani tabiame nyayakori brahmanerajini. If you simply say, I do not remember, I shall take care of the rest. By argument, I shall defeat the young Brahmin. And that would be okay. But that is the son of the Brahmin speaking. And he thinks, well, we don't want this to happen. We don't want you to give our sister to a boy from a poor family. We don't want that to happen. So we don't ask you to lie, but you tell the persons, you let me speak. And the old man had to agree. And normally that would have been a good tactic, except that the young Brahmin had great faith in Krishna. He was very Krishna conscious. And he had promised before the deity. So because of that faith and because of the promise to the deity, what the eldest son is saying is not going to happen. He's not going to be able to handle this by speaking on behalf of his father, because there is more to this than just an argument between two groups of people. It's not it is not just a disagreement or an argument between two people. This involves a promise made before the deity. So there's something more to this. Tumi jadi kaha ami kichwina jani tabi ami nyaya kore brahmanere jini. If you simply say, I do not remember, I shall take care of the rest. By argument, I shall defeat the young Brahmin. Etashuni vipra chintita hoilaman, ekanta babe chinte vipra gopala charan. When the elderly Brahmin heard this, his mind became very much disturbed. Feeling helpless, he simply turned his attention to the lotus feet of Gopal. Muradharma rakapaina morinichajan duiraka kora Gopal loinu shanan. The elderly Brahmin prayed, my dear Gopal, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, and therefore I request you to please protect my religious principles from disturbance, and then at the same time save my kinsman from dying. Because somebody can say, well, why didn't the elderly Brahmin just publicly speak the truth? But he wanted to do that, but his relatives said, if you do that, we'll all take poison. His sons and his wife said that. If you give this boy in charity to this poor Brahmin, you will degrade our family, and because we will feel very much hurt by this, we'll take poison. So the elderly Brahmin was in difficulty. He didn't know what to do. He said, my dear Lord Gopal, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, and therefore I request you to please protect my religious principles from disturbance, and at the same time save my kinsman from dying. Eta mata vipra chite chintite lagila aradina lagu vipra taragare aila. The next day the elderly Brahmin was thinking deeply about this matter when the young Brahmin came to his house. Ashinya parama bhakti namaskara kori vinoi korinya kohe kora duijadi. The young Brahmin came to him and offered respectful obeisances. Then very humbly folding his hands, he spoke as follows. Tumi more kanyadite koryacha angikar ebe gichu nahikaha etomara vichar. You have promised to give your daughter in charity to me. Now you do not say anything. What is your conclusion? Etashune se vipra rohe monadari taraputra marite aila hate tenga khori. After the young Brahmin submitted this statement, the elderly Brahmin remained silent. Taking this opportunity, his son immediately came out with a stick to strike the younger man. Yeah. Ara arama mora bagni chaha virahite vamanahaya chandajena chahata darite. The son said, "Oh, you are most degraded. You want to marry my sister, just like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon." Deya deki se vipra palanagela aradin grameralok ekatra korila. Seeing a stick in the hand of the son, the younger Brahmin fled. The next day, however, he gathered together all the people of the village. Sablok bora vipre dakiya anila tabise lagu vipra kohide lagila. All the people of the village then called for the elderly Brahmin and brought him to their meeting place. The younger Brahmin then began to speak before them as follows. Iha more kanya dite karyache angikar ebe jena dena pucha ihara vyabahar. This gentleman has promised to hand over his daughter to me, yet now he does not follow his promise. Please ask him about his behavior. Tabi se viprere puchila sarvajan kanya keni na deha jadidiya chabachan. All the people gathered there asked the elderly Brahmin, "If you have already promised to give him your daughter in charity, why are you not fulfilling your promise? You have given your word of honor." Viprako he shuna lok mora nivedan kabe ki boliachi mora nahika smaran. The elderly Brahmin said, "My dear friends, please hear what I have to submit. I do not exactly remember a promise like that. I do not exactly remember making a promise like that." So the elderly Brahmin is saying this. Edashunitara putra bhakya chalapaya pragalbahoya kohe samuke ashinya. When the elderly Brahmin's son heard this, he took the opportunity to juggle some words. Becoming very impudent, he stood before the assembly and spoke as follows. Tirtha Jatrai Pitar Sange Chila Bahudan Danadeki Edushtera Loite Hoilaman. While touring various holy places of pilgrimage, my father carried much money. Seeing the money, this rogue decided to take it away. Arake ho sange nahi e sange ekala dutura kao jana bape korila pagal. There was no one. There was arake ho sange nahi e sange ekala dutura kao jana bape korila pagala. There was no one besides this man with my father, giving him an intoxicant known as dutar to eat. This rogue made my father pago. He made my father mad. He made him pago by giving him some drug. Sabdana loya kohe chora loyladan kanya dite chahiache utaila bachan. Having taken all my father's money, this rogue claimed that it was taken by some thief. Now he is claiming that my father has promised to give him his daughter in charity. Tomara sakala lok koraha vichare mora pitara kanya dite jogya ki tare kore tomara sakala lo koraha bichare mora pitara kanya dite jogya ki ihare. All of you assembled here are gentlemen. Please judge whether it is befitting to offer this poor Brahmin my father's daughter. Etashuni lokaramani hoila samshai sambhave dana lobe loka chade dharma boy. Hearing all these statements, all the people gathered there became a little doubtful. They thought it quite possible that because of attraction for riches, one might give up his religious principles. Hearing all these statements, all the people gathered there became a little disturbed. They thought it quite possible that because of attraction for riches, one might give up his religious principles. So here we see the younger Brahmin his only interest was to serve the older Brahmin as an act of devotion. And now he's being blasphemed and criticized before the whole town. Like this is the reward for having served and protected the elderly Brahmin who promised his daughter in charity. Now it appears the young Brahmin his name is being totally deprecated, or his position is being totally rendered, he's being made to appear like a thief before the whole town people. So it seems like, how can this be that this young Brahmin who's only trying to serve the elderly Brahmin is now being labeled as a thief before the whole town? Tabe chota vipra kohe shuna mahajan nyaya chini bare kohe asatya vachan. At that time the young Brahmin said, "My dear gentlemen, please hear. Just to gain victory in an argument, this man is lying. E vipramora sevai tushta chabe hoila toriame kanyadiva apane kohila." Being very satisfied with my service, this Brahmin said to me, of his own accord, "I promise to hand over my daughter to you." Tabe mui nishedinu shuna dvijabar tomara kanyara jogya nahi munij bar. At that time I forbade him to do this, telling him, "O best of the Brahmins, I am not a fit husband for your daughter. Kahan tumi pandita dani parama kulin, kahan mui daridra murka nicha kulahin." Whereas you are a learned scholar, a rich man belonging to an aristocratic family, I'm a poor man, uneducated, and with no claim to aristocracy. I'm just poor, daridra, murka, I'm foolish. This here is translated as not educated, but murka means I'm poor and foolish, and from a very fallen family. Tabu e vipramore kohe bar tore kanya dilun tumi koraha swikar. Still this Brahmin insisted. Again and again he asked me to accept his proposal, saying, "I have given you my daughter, please accept her." Tabiyame kohilan shuna mahamati tomara stri putra gyatir nahabe samati. I then said, "Please hear. You are a learned Brahmin. Your wife, friends, and relatives will never agree to this proposal. Kanyadite narive habe asatya bachan punarape kohi vipra koriya shatan." My dear sir, you will not be able to fulfill your promise. Your promise will be broken. Yet again and again the Brahmin emphasized his promise. Kanyatori dilun Dvida nakoriya chite atmakanya dibakeba parinishedite. I have offered you my daughter. Do not hesitate. She is my daughter, and I shall give her to you. Who can forbid me? Tabeame kohilan drida koriman gopalera age kaha e satyabachan. At that time I concentrated my mind and requested the Brahmin to make the promise before the Gopal deity. Tabe iho gopalera agete kohila tumi jana e vipre kanyad amidila. Then this gentleman said in front of the Gopal deity, "My dear Lord, please bear witness. I have offered my daughter to this Brahmin in charity." Tabe ame gopalere sake korinya kohilan tarapari minate karinya. Accepting the Gopal deity as my witness, I then submitted to falling at his lotus feet. Jabi e vipramorina dibe kanyadan sake bolaimu tomai ha'io sabadan. If this Brahmin later hesitates to give me his daughter, my dear Lord, I shall call on you as a witness. Please note this with care and attention. E Bhakya Sakimora Ache Mahajan Jara Bhakya Satyakori Mane Tribhuvan. Thus I have called upon a great personality in this transaction. I have asked the Supreme Godhead to be my witness. The entire world accepts the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Although the young Brahmin described himself as having no claims to aristocracy and being an uneducated common man, still he had one good qualification. He believed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was the topmost authority. He accepted the words of Lord Krishna without hesitation. And he had firm faith in the Lord's consistency. According to Prahlad Maharaj, another authority on the Supreme Personality of God, such a staunch and faithful devotee of the Lord must be understood to be a most learned scholar. Tanmanye ditam uttamam. A pure devotee who has firm faith in the words of the Lord is to be considered a most learned scholar, the topmost aristocrat, and the richest man in the world. All godly qualities automatically exist in such a devotee. In the preaching work of the Krishna conscious movement, we, as the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of God, fully believe in the words of Krishna and his servants, the disciplic succession. In this way, we are presenting the words of Krishna throughout the world, even though we are neither a rich man nor a very learned scholar, and even though we do not belong to any aristocracy, this movement is still being welcomed and is very easily spreading all over the world. Although we are very poor and have no professional source of income, Krishna supplies money whenever we need it. Whenever we need some men, Krishna supplies them. Thus it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Yam ladva chaparam labam manyante nadikam tata. Actually, if we can attain the favor of the Lord, we do not need anything else. We certainly do not need those things which a mundane person considers to be material assets. Tabe bora vipra kohe e satya kata gopala jadi saki dena apane asi eta tabikanya diba ami janiya nischoy tharaputra kohe e balo batahoy. Taking this opportunity, the elderly Brahmin immediately confirmed that this was really true. He said, if Gopal personally comes here to serve as a witness, I shall surely give my daughter to the young Brahmin. The elderly Brahmin's son immediately confirmed this, saying, yes, this is a very nice statement. As the supersoul within the heart of all living entities, Krishna knows everyone's desire, everyone's request, and everyone's prayer. Although all these may be contradictory, the Lord has to create a situation in which everyone will be pleased. This is an instance of a marriage negotiation between an elderly Brahmin and a youthful one. The elderly Brahmin was certainly willing to give his daughter in charity to the young Brahmin, but his son and relatives became impediments to this transaction. The elderly Brahmin considered how to get out of this situation and still offer his daughter to the young Brahmin. His son, an atheist and a very cunning fellow, was thinking of how to stop the marriage. The father and son were thinking in a contradictory way, yet Krishna created a situation wherein they agreed. They both agreed that if the Gopal deity would come and serve as a witness, the daughter would be given to the young Brahmin. Bora vipraramani Krishna bora doyavan abhashya mora bhakya teho koribe praman. The elderly Brahmin thought, since Lord Krishna is very merciful, he will certainly come to prove my statement. Putraramani pratima na ashibe shakidite e badye duijan hoila samate. The atheistic son, it is not thought The atheistic son thought it is not possible for Gopal to come and bear witness. Thinking thus, the father and son agreed. Chota vipra boli patra koraha likan punajena nahi chale e sabhavachan. The young Brahmin took this opportunity to speak. Please write this down in black and white so that you may not again change your word of honor. Tabi sab loka mele patra talikila duhara samateloya madhyashta rohila. So please record this. Please write this down so you won't change your word of honor. All the assembled people got this statement down in black and white, and taking the signatures of agreement from both of them served as the mediators. Tabe Chota. Tabe Chota Vipra Kohe Shuna Sarvajan E Vipra Satyabhakya Dharma Parayan. The young Brahmin then said, "Will all you gentlemen present please hear me? This elderly Brahmin is certainly truthful and is following religious principles. Swabhakya Chadite Ihara Nahi Kabuman Swajanamritya Baye Kohe Asatyavachan." He had no desire to break his promise, but fearing that his kinsman would commit suicide, he deviated from the truth. Ihara Punye Krishnayani Sake Bolaiba Tabi E Viprer Satya Pratigya Rahiva. By the piety of the elderly Brahmin, I shall call the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a witness. Thus I shall keep his truthful promise intact. Eta Shuni Nashtika Lok Upahas Kore Kehoboli Ishwara Doyalu Asiteha Pare. Hearing this emphatic statement of the younger Brahmin, some atheists in the meeting began to cut jokes. However, someone else said, "After all, the Lord is merciful, and if he likes, he can come." Tavese Chota Vipra Gela Vrindavan Dandavat Kore Kohe Sabha Vivaran. After the meeting, the young Brahmin started for Vrindavan. Upon arriving there, he first offered his respectful obeisances to the deity and then narrated everything in full detail. So I'm going to stop at this place. Tomorrow we'll do this story in Spanish. And then the day after tomorrow, we'll finish the story in English.
The same story?
Yeah. Hariharaya Namah Krishna Jadavaya Namah Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raguna Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna Eshai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jao ete vignana shabisha puran Echai Gosai Jar Mui Taranas Tasaba Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Kader Charana Sebi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abilas Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narotamadas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narotamadas Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhariju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramansa Parvajaka Charyash Tatara Sadarshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Tara Sadashri Shrimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Sakshi-gopal Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Premsi Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat ki jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda ki jai. Nandikoti Vaishnava Brinda ki jai. Sri Navadip Dham ki jai. Sri Mayapur ki jai. Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Koladvip ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan Amakunda Radhakunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Sripad Bhakti Bandhavak Puri Maharaj ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai.
Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.
Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.